Happy New Year's Eve. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you may be. But it's Wednesday, March 31st, 2021 here in Frisco, Texas. And today, I'm joined by one of my good friends, one of Hofstra's finest, former professional baseball player, and the man with the moo-moos, Danny Poma. Danny, how are you, my friend?
Doing good, Brian. Appreciate the invite. Excited to get down and chat a little bit today.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited that we finally connected to do one of these. I know you've been an avid supporter of me so far doing these, and you fit right in the perfect wheelhouse of what we do. So, I can't wait. First of all, for those listening that didn't understand why I said Happy New Year's Eve, I explained this to Danny. Today is March 31st, and quick history lesson here. Back in the day, when they switched from the Gregorian calendar to the current calendar, April 1st used to be New Year's Day. But when they switched, if you still celebrated New Year's on April 1st, you were called a fool. Hence, April Fool's Day. So me and my friends jokingly started calling it New Year's Eve, and then it just kind of turned into this thing where we tell each other if we're sweet or not. So Danny, you're going to be a part of that this year. Obviously, we've talked about it quite a bit. But we so that's where I'm not nuts. I don't think it's December 31st. So don't call the authorities on me, please. I appreciate it. But Danny, let's get started, man. I always like to start off with a quick, brief intro. Done by no one other than yourself. Go ahead, man. Let people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So welcome everyone who's listening in right now. Danny Poma. Currently living in Little Elm, Texas, with my beautiful girlfriend Amanda, and also Declan, my son. And relocated out here from California back in January of 2020. Currently work for a company called Language Line Solutions. We provide interpretation services for pretty much any business. And that took me to take the next step in my career, which is out here in Texas. Loving the transition so far. As far as a little bit of background, played baseball pretty much my whole life. And yeah, I know we're going to get into a little bit of that, but very active. That's why Brian and I connected. He's constantly swimming or biking or running, has that athlete mentality. So connected very well there, and that's why we're here today, to talk a little bit more about that and what the future holds and what we can do from that standpoint. But yeah, that's pretty much a quick overview for me. Yeah, back to you, Brian.
Was this a news report back to you in the studio? No, I think that was very well done. It's hard to talk about yourself and have yourself put on the spot like that. So that's awesome. So I appreciate that. But I think what's unique in the situation with you right now is I have had most of the guests I've had on the show were typically currently in the sports that they've been training for their lives, or have discovered a new sport later in life and excelled at that. And you're kind of the inverse, which is why I'm really interested to pick your brain and hear have people hear your story too. You are obviously someone who's very committed to your craft, and you played it at the highest levels you possibly can. And once that goes away, how do you fill that void? Because originally this whole show got started because I think there's so many people out there that play, whether it's high level, high school, college, semi-pro, professionally, in any sport at any level, and once that outlet just is gone, they find themselves seeking another way to release that energy. And I think a lot of people have trouble. So someone like you, who obviously is involved in a million different things now, I think it's a great story. So first, let's talk about your baseball past. I mean, that's what we have you in the title as. So, let's walk us through kind of your history and relationship with the game of baseball.
Yeah, well, that starts, at a very young age. And, born and raised in Monterey, California, huge baseball community. So, all my friends, everyone played baseball from T-ball all the way up to high school. Summer ball, it was nonstop. So, was naturally just in that mix. And then, once we got to high school, then I saw that some other of my buddies were getting scholarships to Division I colleges, and that kind of clicked in my head. And I was like, well, if they could do it, I could do it. So then I went the junior college route down to Cuesta, which is still close to home. It's about 2 hours south. It's in San Luis Obispo, about an hour north of Santa Barbara, which I'm sure everyone knows who's listening in. Was able to have some good success there, and then pretty much wrote up an email and sent it out to a bunch of Division I schools, about 80. And that was my goal. My goal was to play D1 baseball, the highest level for college, and got an offer, got an opportunity from Hofstra in Long Island, New York. I was playing on a summer team called the San Diego Waves, and that was down in Escondido. And Patrick Anderson, the head coach of Hofstra, flew down to watch me play. And after, he said, you did well, but this isn't guaranteeing you anything with us. And then I believe it was about a couple days after, I got an offer from Hofstra, which was great. It was my goal of going Division I. And then I had 2 years at Hofstra, saw a lot of great success. And then I fulfilled my all-time dream of being able to get drafted by the Diamondbacks in the 10th round in the 2012 draft, and got to go to spring training and play about a year and a half with them, which was awesome. Family came out to spring training in Scottsdale, Arizona. First year I played in Yakima, Washington. It was called the Yakima Bears. And then the second year I was in Missoula, Montana for the Missoula Osprey. From there, then I went over to Laredo, Texas, played for the Laredo Lemurs. And then my last 2 years I finished up in Washington, Pennsylvania, playing for the Washington Wild Things. So 32 now. That I ended my career, or I hung up the cleats, as they like to say, when I was 26. And, just with athletes, with their identity being in sports their whole life, it's sometimes hard to make that transition. And for me, it wasn't hard. I accomplished a lot, and I was able to have peace with the game and move on to the next chapter. I know Brian and I always talk about, turning the page, what's the next thing? It is what it is, and keep moving. The world's not going to stop. So of course I wanted to play in the big leagues and fulfill that ultimate dream, but I was able to, really look back on my success and flip that page, move on to the next one. And, now I'm in the real world with Language Line, going on my 6th year now in sales. So kind of a brief overview of the baseball journey to now.
What a ride, man. And I got to give props to whoever came up with the name Laredo Lemurs. That's a hell of a name. I chuckled when you said that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like, just starting out way back at the beginning of your stories, it sounds like the goalposts were kind of moving for you when you said, you saw guys on your team in high school making D1, and you're like, well, I can do that. Like if they can do it, I can do it, right? Was D1 ever your goal, like early on? You weren't in like 8th grade going, I'm going to play D1 baseball, were you? Or it doesn't sound like it. That's why I'm asking.
No, good question. No, it was never really in the sights. I grew up riding dirt bikes, hunting, wakeboarding, doing all those things in the summer. And most of my buddies who were super dedicated to the game, they did summer ball. They only played baseball in high school, and I never played summer ball until I got, into college. I played basketball in high school as well. That's right before baseball season. So I never really had a dream of of course I wanted to play in the big leagues, but I never had other goals of getting there, of okay, I got to go D1, I got to do this, I got to, it was just once I saw, that other people were going, I'm like, okay, well, if he can play, I can play, and that's where it clicked for me. And that's where I really locked it in. JJ Sherrill was a very successful baseball player back from Monterey, drafted by the Cleveland Indians. And he was really big on frame of mind and your mindset. And he would always have us go down the first baseline right before the game, about 10 minutes before the game. We would sit down, we would close our eyes, and we would visualize our at-bats. we would visualize getting base hits, winning the game, and he called it frame of mind. And that's something that I always took from that, and I apply it, especially in my baseball career. That's why I saw a lot of success. And now today too, it's all about positive thinking. We've talked about it, law of attraction.
Yep.
What you focus on comes to your life. So yeah, to answer your question, no, never really had that insight until I saw other people signing those letters, those full rides. I was like, okay, well, if they can do that, I could find a way there too.
I love that. And even like that visualization, practice, I think that helps with athletes or just anything. It's when the moment comes that you've been training or working for, or whatever aspect of your life you're working towards a goal. Whenever you hit that moment, you've already done it a million times in your brain. So it's just a lot easier for you to meet that moment. The moment's not bigger than you. You're able to kind of rise up, and because you've already played it a million times. I mean, I don't know if you want me to say this, but I don't care. I'm going to say it. When you said when you were in high school, you're walking around just like tearing up, just thinking about the opportunity to like play at the next level. I mean, that level of intensity that you can get to in your mind is pretty like, people don't exercise your brain muscle enough, I don't think. And that's something that has just an infinite power in helping to guide you where you want to go.
Yeah, that was actually at Hofstra when I was walking to classes.
Hofstra, okay.
Yeah, just so lost in the thought of the series of what's coming up against Florida State or whoever it was, and yeah, just very emotional, just really thinking about it in depth, and thoughts become things, and sure enough, it all came to fruition. Before the season, I always say, if they were to ask, like, write up your perfect season, I couldn't have written down a better season than what I did, and that I stem that all from obviously preparation, working hard, but that all stems from right here. What's the quote? They say the hardest putt is the 6-inch putt between your ears. It's all in your head. You see big time golfers, play a round lights out, and then one hole they explode because of that one mess up, that one putt, and it domino effects. So yeah, if you could stay strong up here, anything's possible.
I love that. Yeah, that's very true, and I was gonna say too. I mean, just so people are aware of, like, you didn't just make a D1 baseball team like that. That wasn't your goal, and that's not who you are as a person. I mean, your goal is to always excel at what you're going to do. So, why don't you just let some of the people watching know just some of the accolades that you had, because you did some pretty damn impressive stuff.
So
brag about yourself. Come on.
Senior year, I led the nation in several categories. I led the nation in most doubles, most runs. I was second in the nation for batting average. I hit .430 behind Raph Rhymes of LSU, who hit .431. I was a first-team All-American for Louisville Slugger. I was Howdy Myers Athlete of the Year for Hofstra. I was the first baseball athlete or first baseball player ever to win the Male Athlete of the Year. I was a finalist for the Golden Spikes, the Dick Hauser Golden Spikes Award, which is the top collegiate baseball player in the nation. Mike Zunino, the catcher in the big leagues now, he won it that year. I believe I made it down to like the last 10 finalists there. I still hold several records at Hofstra.
You're part of the Player of the Decade team too, right? Or all decade?
Yeah. So I was. That was cool. That was they published an article about the top 10 athletes of the decade for Hofstra, and I was on that list, which was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It gives me goosebumps talking about it. I really don't talk about it that much, but it's good to look back on it. A lot of success, and that's all ties back to just being organized and structured, and Amanda will tell you, I'm up at 4:30 every morning. I go to the gym at 5. I still have it in me. It's something I'm not going to lose. But yeah, I love it. It's great. It's fun to succeed.
So you said, 26 was the last time, the last game that you played when you decided to hang them up?
Yep, 26.
So that moment comes for every athlete at whatever level you're playing when you know you're playing your last game. And in that moment, you play your last game. What was going through your head? You're like, what's next? Because you've been competitive basically your whole life. In the last, if you're, from almost 10 years, right? When you're like 16, 17, that's when you start thinking about college. And then, so the past 10 years, you've been eat, sleep, breathing baseball. So then 26 comes around, you play your last game. And then what's going through your head? Like, what are you thinking about, like, next steps, things like that?
I really wasn't thinking about next steps. I was really just trying to be in the moment. My parents, they were like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you could keep playing. Cause they know, hey, look, you're getting to chase your dream. You're playing baseball, even though it's not like in the big leagues, like you're still getting a game. You're still getting to play a game for a living. They knew, like, okay, you know what the next step is? It's the real world. It's getting a job. It's doing that thing.
It's not like when you quit at the insurance office. It's like you can always go back to insurance. Like you can't go back to baseball unless you're Michael Jordan.
Yeah, you can't. So I guess really no thoughts there on what the next steps was. I was kind of just like, I'm going to figure it out as I go. Just wanted to enjoy it as much as possible, and I had a that last season of us on the bus. We would get per diem money in the beginning of the trip, and we would gamble on the bus, and and it would play cards on the bus. I just tried to embrace it as much as possible. Same with the fans and the kids. Everyone looks up to you. You give autographs after every game. That's something that doesn't happen anymore. And I knew, I was thinking about it. This is a big decision, but I was ready. I was ready to take the next step. I don't know what that was at the time, but yeah, I was very, very happy with my career and ready to move on.
And you said it was Washington, Pennsylvania was your last stop, right?
Yep, Washington, PA. It was the Washington Wild Things.
Nice, very cool.
Yeah.
So, let's bridge the gap, because you're a friggin' maniac with F45 now. Shout out to F45. With F45, this is your new, like, competitive outlet. There's no doubt about it. This is like, you're not just going there to, like, work out. You're going there to, like, beat other people because there's a board, and you're getting points. And Saturday we're gonna be working out together, and I'm gonna be shooting for you, but I think you're gonna get me. So how did you fall into, like, F45? I guess my first question before that, did you recognize after you got done playing baseball, was there ever a moment where you really, like, thought to yourself, I need to compete in something, right? There's just this piece missing that needs to be a part of my life? Or was it something that, you were happy to be away from sports for a little bit? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I don't think I picked up a baseball for a long time. I definitely didn't want anything to do with baseball. That's for sure. I was ready. I just needed a break from it. It was nonstop, and it grinds on you. It's definitely a grind. Like you said, eat, sleep, breathe. So yeah, I definitely needed some time away from that. But as far as competitiveness, you could ask any of my buddies back at home. Anytime we were playing a game or anything, I'd always try and turn it into a competition. I joined a dart league back at home. I love to play darts. We just got a board here at the house probably a month ago. Anything that you can compete against. Cornhole, my dad loves to play cornhole. We would play that. I'm not big into the video games. Like I know you are, but I've never been really big into the video games, so I never really got into that. But Yeah, I mean, pretty much anything, Brian, that I could compete at.
Did you continue to work out when you were done playing baseball? Were you going to the gym and were you,
Yeah.
running, lifting, that kind of stuff?
Yep. So the routine back at home before I came out to Texas, and I was actually able to recruit a couple buddies. Um, work would start at 7:45. Gold's Gym would open at 5 in the morning. And slowly but surely, I was able to recruit a couple buddies: Joe Palmer, my cousin JD Poma. I met some good friends there too: John Dotto, Ryan Fusina. I mean, kind of just created this little culture there, and more people started feeding off it. And it sounds nuts going that early, but for me, it's just, I get more out of the day. I'm in sales, so I'm on the phone all day. It gets my endorphins going. It gets me rolling. And like I said, the routine is huge. When you get out of bed and you make your bed at 4:45 in the morning, that's a task completed. And then that's a domino effect, So then I work out, and then I go to work and I sit down, and I've already completed several tasks, and most of the people are just still rubbing their eyes, drinking their first cup of coffee, trying to pick up the phone. So that's the competitive mindset of saying, look, this is what I did already. What did you do, kind of thing,
Yeah.
So always competing in that sense.
No, I agree with that. I used to be that roll out of bed late guy. I would go to the gym after work, and I would after you work all day, you're mentally tired too. Not only physically because you've been up all day, but you're not getting the same kind of workouts that you were getting. And then if you work out late, well, you're jacked up, you're gonna go to bed later, and it was like this vicious cycle that I didn't even realize that I was in. So props to you for realizing early on, getting up early like that. That probably comes from the discipline that you had as a college athlete, in pro baseball, right? I mean, you were on a pretty tight regimented schedule all the time, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Cuesta. We had gym in the morning. I believe we had gym, and then we would swim too. We had swim class. I want to say that was maybe 6:30 or 7, or 6:30. And then Hofstra was when it really kicked in for me. I was in the mentality of I'm on a scholarship here. This is Division I. All their facilities were really nice. And Jimmy Prendergast, he was a strength coach, still is today. We still keep in touch. And yeah, I mean, I remember it's New York. It snows there. We would be walking in snow to the gym in the morning for a 5:30 session, and it was 6 degrees. So
I'm a New Yorker.
Here in Texas,
I get it.
yeah. Shout out to Buffalo. But yeah, it definitely kicked it. I've done it my whole life, but it definitely kicked it into gear, I would say, at Hofstra, just because after that routine and everything, I saw direct success. And from there, I was like, okay, if I stick to a plan and I really stay consistent, I mean, you could really accomplish anything you want.
Yeah, and I told you, I mean, the whole point of the show is to inspire others to seek change, to pursue the best versions of themselves, to hear from people like you who've performed at really high levels and continue to hold themselves to really high levels. And sometimes I think it's hard for individuals who have done it at a high level or continue to do it at a high level to maybe connect with people who are at zero. Let's just call it zero. You know what I mean? The people rubbing their eyes, as you're, clocking in or, logging in for the morning meeting or whatever. So what would be a bit of a piece of advice that you would say in terms of making the change? Someone if someone's, struggling with weight or, motivation or whatever it may be, and they look at someone like you and they're like, he's a superhero, well, no, we're all people. So what would you say would be really one of the first, most important foundations of your day, getting up early or whatever that may be?
Yeah, whenever I talk to people or, about changing something or working out or routine, I always recommend earlier the better. I know it's a struggle for some people to wake up really early. You got to go sleep early. You got to get the rest in. That's the key component. But the thing is, when you go early to the gym like that, you don't have any people in there, which is great. You know, one thing that I don't like is I hate going at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock after work, because that's when everyone goes, you know, and then you have to wait for machines and you have to wait for weights, and then you got people you just don't want to deal with, you know. So as far as like the best advice, I would say start small, but there's got to be some change in the routine, you know. If you really want this, you need to sacrifice some things. So if you want to get to the gym and you want to get there early, you need to sacrifice, you know, watching your show. You know, let's say if you watch Temptation Island, and no more Temptation Island, you got to get to bed by 8:45, 9 o'clock.
I think we all know if you're Danny's guilty pleasure now.
No, shout out to Amanda for that one. She got me suckered into that.
Sure, yeah, it's Amanda's fault. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I would just say, you know, there's got to be some sacrifice there, you know. Of course, you want to lose the weight, you want the six-pack, you want this, you want that. Well, what are you willing to give up? And I would say the best part would be if you can get more sleep and wake up early to maximize the day, you'll realize how much more you get done in the day. When you get off of work, you're like, whoa, I already got my workout done. I have an hour and a half to now go, you know, cruise the beach or go do this or start a side hustle or do whatever you want, you know?
Hit Mario boards,
Yeah, hit Mario boards, you know, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I would say if you can start earlier and you can get used to it, you know, what did they say? 21 days to build a habit, some type of quote like that. 90 days to, but yeah, if you can stay consistent and start early, that's the key to success.
I listened to, I mean, the first day we ever hung out, I think I was playing, you know, motivational videos for you on YouTube. We were getting all jacked up, and one of the big ones I like, I draw a lot of, you know, just random quotes. I don't even know who's saying them because I'm listening to them, you know, I'm not even watching them, but one I really liked, it was like, you know, you want to be great, you got to wake up early, and he's like, yeah, you know, you don't want to wake up early, well, who does, you know? And it's like, when that alarm goes off, it's not like I'm, you know, at least for me, it's not like I have bells on, you know what I mean? It's the fact of just putting your feet on the ground. That's the first step. You know, you can't get out of bed if you don't, you know, rotate, get up, and put your feet on the ground. That was the hardest thing because I had tried for a while to get up really early, and I was having issues with it because change is hard. I mean, it really is. You know, like someone like me, I had years of waking up late. You know, waking up 8:30. You know, 20 minutes before you got to go to work, rolling out of bed. Don't have to do my hair, so that's nice, you know. But I think that is, you know, that it's just huge changes start with your small ones that build up, you know, in your day.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, if you could put that frame of mind of, you know, your 2 feet hit the ground, you have another opportunity. You know, I mean, you could dial it down to that, you know. Tomorrow's not trying to get deep or anything, but tomorrow's never promised, right? We don't know, you know, if tomorrow's guaranteed. So, you know, when you put I don't enjoy waking up at 4:30. I mean, Amanda will probably tell you I do. But there's definitely mornings where, you know, I'm in a different cycle and it's like, whoa, like, you know, sleep cycle wise, I wake up and I'm just like, well, I'm really tired. But like, that's when you got to push through and you got to go. And there's been a lot of times where I'm like, maybe I won't, but I do go. And then after, I'm so glad I did. But you always have that devil on your shoulder saying, no, just sleep, just rest. It's okay. Like, you need it, you know, you need it.
And when you said, like, you know, I don't want to go too deep, go as deep as you want, man, because honestly, my vision for this, kind of like a byproduct of doing this, is to get into the psyche of successful people, you know, to understand how they tick, you know, how they operate. You know, I've had a guy, you know, one of my friends won the national championship for aqua bike. That's swimming and biking, kind of like a triathlon minus the running. But him, I mean, Pimp on here, he's you know, he got into speed skating later in life, and he's inline speed skating. He's gone to national championships. Just all kinds of people, professional triathlete, you know, can jam, like professional can jam player, like everyone. I know you'd like that, but I know, like, but it's just the one thing that everyone has in common. It's it's dedication. It's, just not second guessing your decisions. It's, I'm going to the gym tomorrow at 5. That's it. Like, there's no, if I wake up, or, if the weather's nice, or if I feel like it. There's none of that. It's just, you're there when you commit to it, And it goes back to, like, what you said before, like sitting on the first baseline, visualizing. Well, visualize yourself at the gym. Whatever you have to do to, like, put yourself in the future. Our brain's a powerful tool that it's like you said, the devil on your shoulder. Well, you can force that devil off by your mindset as well. I think your brain is such a powerful tool that people just don't tap into and use in a cool, in a productive way. I think a lot of people just let it go by the wayside.
Yeah, and that's the disconnect there. That's what separates the elite level athletes, and then the athletes that only go so far. I mean, it's right here. That's what separates anyone in life. I mean, you got to visualize. You have to know what you're going after, and you just kind of, we were talking about it. Become obsessed with it. In a good way. For instance, if you want to play volleyball, Molly, Amanda's sister's probably watching. You have to she's got to become obsessed with practice, with practicing and learning all the strategies and the techniques. And, when you see, better players playing, join them, play with them. It might be intimidating, but that's how you push yourself and you get better. You just always, JJ Sorrell, another thing he said that stuck with me, he said, in your career, you're going to play for a ton of hitting coaches, a ton of head coaches. They're going to tell you to do this drill and do that drill, whether it's baseball or volleyball or whatever sport it is. He said you got to be a sponge. And, if this coach tells you something and that drill works, you soak that in. But say this coach over here in this next team, he says something, change your hands, do this, do whatever, and it doesn't work. You don't need to soak that in. So be a sponge, and whatever works for you, soak that in. You don't need to soak in everything. You want to learn as much as you can and take things that you can apply that are useful for you, and then you just keep moving forward with it, So, yeah.
I love that. No, I was going to say, I love that, and I think that applies to all aspects of life. And, this doesn't have to be to sports. Like sales, for instance, right? I mean, if there's no tried and true way to sell. There just isn't. You have to sell to fit to your personality, because I'm in sales too. And the way that, and by the way, Pimp was just saying, the skater that we were talking about, he said he's doing skating exercises right now while he's watching us. So there's just a super motivated guy. But yeah, like even like my buddy who just moved down here, Bird, he was in sales too, and he was listening to me on the phones, and he's like, why don't you do this? I would do it this way. I would do this. I'm like, because I don't operate that way, and I'm leading my team. I'm the most successful sales rep on my team at work. Why would I change? Obviously, I'll learn and I'll take bits and pieces, and I did like a couple of things that he said. So that sponge analogy, I'll take that. I'm going to throw away the other stuff that's not going to work for me, and you're just a conglomerate. And that's why I think, on a more like meta level, when we talk about you're a combination or a conglomerate of, your 5 or 6, closest people, or the people that you surround yourself with. So, if you're hanging out, there's these sayings exist for a reason. It's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by a flock of turkeys, right? I think it's a lot of, who you decide to hang around with. Energy is both negative and positive, and it's how you decide to spend your days. And that's why it was like lightning in a bottle when we met each other in the pool that day, because we were like, right off the bat, we're like, yeah. It was just like, you know what I mean? Like we were understanding like where we were each coming from, and we're like, oh, I definitely want to hang out with you, and and then it was interesting to get an outsider's perspective, because Bird the other day, he was like, after our pool day, he left, or when you guys left, he was just like, I could definitely see why you two hang out.
Running around playing catch at the pool all day,
just nonstop.
Just nonstop. Yeah, it's and pretty much everyone who's probably watching right now can vouch. Like, when you're around a positive person or motivating person, you can feel that energy or on the flip side, when you're around a very negative person,
It's like an anchor.
bah humbug. Yeah, I mean, you can feel it. You don't want to be around those people. So, two other things I would say as far as like successful like mindset and what to practice would obviously be gratitude is huge. Always practicing gratitude. I bet you Pimp could probably vouch for that. Just being grateful to have another day, put your 2 feet on the ground, grateful for all my friends out here, friends I've made, to be able to walk. See, I mean, you can really get down to a granular level because unfortunately, everyone doesn't get the same opportunities, right? So being grateful is huge too. Always practicing gratitude, puts you in a good frame of mind. And then always be positive, even if a negative situation comes up, how can you put a spin on it to say, you know what, this is how I'm going to learn from this rather than being put down from it. Because, I mean, baseball, you've heard the quote, it's a game of failure. You fail 7 out of 10 times and you're a Hall of Famer. You're hitting 300, batting, 300, right? You tell me another sport where you can fail 70% of the time and be one of the best and be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I mean, it's a very, very high fail rate in baseball. So you deal with a lot of adversity. And how can you put a spin on it? How can you, strike out? You're going to have 3 other at-bats. You're going to take that strikeout to your next at-bat? Because that's just going to mess up your next at-bat. You got to turn the page like we said. You got to reset, visualize what you're going to do, get in that positive frame of mind, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, me and you. Like when we talk about everyone faces adversity. Some obviously face it a lot more than others, but it's how you deal with that that's really going to, I think, turn you into the person that you're going to be in the future. Because there's, you face a life event, and you could either let it affect you negatively and carry that baggage with you the rest of your life, or, turn it into somewhat of a positive somehow, put a positive spin on it, and move forward in that direction. And like in golf, I just took golf lessons, and the instructor was saying, if your degree, like a 10-foot putt, I think, and I'm probably butchering this, but if your club head is 1 degree off in a 10-foot putt, you're gonna miss it by like 10 inches or something like that. And it's that these little refractions in your life, that down the road you don't really see how much it can derail you by that negative thinking. If you're like say Temptation Island, right? Let's just use that as an example. Say you said, you know what, screw it, I don't care about F45, I'll go after work, right? So you're like, I'll watch Temptation Island till 11 o'clock and, screw the gym in the morning, I'll go after work. You're not getting the same workout, right? You're getting a packed class. You're probably not going to enjoy it as much. Maybe you don't even keep going, you know what I mean, after a couple months of that. As opposed to, I'm not watching Temptation Island. I'm going to go to bed. I'm gonna get that. So think about those two situations and then put yourself like 5 years down the road. Well, those are two very, very different people from just a simple decision made there to not watch a TV show a little bit later at night. And I think about this quite a bit because I think about, like, how many of those decisions are you making a day? Like how much garbage are you putting in your body a day that you don't realize that you're putting in a lot? Or how many days are you really skipping the gym? Or how many days are you not committing yourself to getting better, and those days just accentuate, or get exaggerated over the course of, longer periods of time. So I was actually going to ask you too. Jenny wanted to know, how's your challenge going with? So for those who don't know, Danny has made a deal with Amanda about food, because he's committed to. Was it for Lent, or what was the reason for?
So F45.
F45. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just do a brief overview for those who don't know. It's called F45 Functional 45. So it's a HIIT class where there's different stations. You walk in, you don't have to write a program or anything. They have it all set out.
And HIIT stands for high intensity interval training. So it's like
there we go.
Short explosive bursts for 45 seconds, and then a short rest period, then bam, 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 bam.
Exactly. And, you name it, rowing machine, jump ropes, box jumps, weights, this, that. It's great. It's always different. So with F45, they do challenges, and it's a 45-day challenge. And, the trainers keep you on track to make sure to work out as much as possible. They give you tips on how to healthy eat. Because if you stick with it, you can really see some great results within 45 days. I mean, these workouts, I've played sports my whole life. These workouts gas me every morning. I'm soaked. I'm in probably the best shape of my life right now, and I'm not even playing a sport. I'm just doing this F45. But anyways, I told Amanda, I said, because I love to eat. I'm fortunate. I have a fast metabolism, and I can eat whatever I want, and, it doesn't show. But I love sweets. I love chocolate. I love cookies. I love all that. So I said to Amanda, I said, look, I need you to hold me accountable, and I need to have more willpower when it comes to food. So no cookies, no sweets, and also no chips. I love my chips too. So anytime I eat a cookie or a chip or whatever it is, I have to pay her $25, right? So that's the deal. We're on day 2. I'm good. I'm in the clear. I haven't touched anything. And, I'm pretty tight with my money. I like to save a lot. So in my head, it's like, I'm not going to give her $25. She thinks she's going to be getting me $25. But so far we're on day 2. We're good. Those are that's back to like that competitive challenge. Like, that's another spin on it for me. It's like, okay, well, I know I've done 2 of these challenges before, and I've slipped when I've said, well, no chocolate, but nothing was holding me accountable to that. So I said, $25 on the line. We shook on it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sneak off in the corner at night and eat a cookie. So yeah, that's a little behind the challenge there, but
and let's be real too. I mean, we know Amanda. We know she's gonna gloat that $25 in front of your face when if you were to lose it too. I'm dreading the day when the Jets beat the Bills because I know I'm never gonna hear the end of it. So
Yes, yeah, no, you won't. She'll be all over you and her family.
But hasn't happened yet. Go Bills. So day two of how many?
Yep. So day 2 of 45 days. So the challenge is 45 days. Yeah. No worries there. F45. So it's interval training for 45 minutes, and then they do these challenges every other month, or every other 2 months. So it's good. I love it. If there's ever an F45 and anyone's listening, I would definitely go check it out. The way that I got into it is, we started renting this house, and I noticed there was a gym that was on the corner, and it was one of those decisions like you were talking about, Brian, where it's just like, it's new, like, should I do this? And it's kind of one of those where I was like, I'm just gonna try it. 7 free day trial, like, let's see if this works. It's about a mile away from the house, so I walk in the morning. I don't walk now, it's not warm enough yet, but that's right around the corner. And man, it was a game changer. It really was. It filled that void. When I was living over in the Civic, where I met Brian at the apartment, I would go to LA Fitness across the street, and wasn't really that dedicated. But yeah, once I got here, 5 a.m. class, trainers motivating you, and the workouts are really phenomenal. So anyways, shout out to F45. If anyone has one around and you see one, I would highly recommend go in, try it out. My brother, when he comes to visit, he's going to do a class with me out here. It's definitely life-changing for sure.
And I just want to make it very clear to everybody, we are not sponsored by F45. This is genuine. I mean, if you wanted to throw money our way, not going to be angry about it. No, but I'll vouch, too. I mean, you got me on the F45 train when I went back to Buffalo for those 7 weeks. I'd never done a workout like that either, and it's just great functional training, and I'm a big fan of that kind of training, too. I do that kind of workout, those kind of workouts at my gym, but the accountability of having, like when we went to Houston, we did it there. It's a hell of a workout, especially, like you said, as an athlete. It's pretty hard to mimic if at all possible to mimic a workout like that. So yeah, it's showing, man. You're pretty freaking jacked. So I don't
Appreciate you.
never want to say the wrong thing around you. You're gonna beat me up. So.
And the last thing I would say about all that is, and I know a lot of people are probably listening. I was a culprit of it too. Like, you go to the gym and you're kind of at your own pace, and you see someone, and you talk and this and that. Like this, it's 45 minutes, and you got to bounce from station to station, and you only get so much time to rest. So, I mean, it's high elevated heart rates. You're in the 140, 50, 60, 70 range at times. You wear a heart monitor. There's screens up there where you can track, who's got burning the most calories, or gaining the most points. Your target is 45 points, hence the F45. So anyways, that's the last tidbit I want to throw in there.
No, that's, what I equate that to is I'm a musician too, or was, and still dabble here and there. But something a composer told me once was, when you're playing music, if you have like a half note rest, that's 2 beats. So you don't just sit there, or if you have like 10 measures, you don't just sit there. You engage yourself mentally in the music, and count the beats in your head and feel it, and then so when you come back in, and that's the same way with I kind of equate that to working out too, because I have a Garmin watch I use for my triathlon stuff, but I use it to lift too, and I never rest more than 45 seconds either. And that's part of the training. But that changed maybe like 3 or 4 years ago when I really started getting into that type of training. But that's when I saw the biggest transformation in my body, too. So there's definitely... And who wants to be in the gym for like 3 hours just walking around talking to people? Like,
right? In and out. Done. On to your day.
Done deal. Bada boom, bada bing, you're out of there,
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so what's next on the docket? I mean, obviously you're getting into golf. I mean, that seems to be picking up a little bit. This F45 training, we got a big flag football tourney coming up. Like, what are your goals in the future?
As far as from a working out, active lifestyle.
Yeah.
Just trying new things. I ran my first half marathon back in 2019. I thought that was great. There were some people who motivated me who didn't think I could do it. Ran it at a 9-minute pace, so pretty solid. I'll take it.
That's the best way to get me to do something, and I'm sure you're the same way too. Is tell me you can't do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Marathon, that just seems a little bit of a stretch. I don't know if I really want to go through that, but I've always wanted to do one of those Tough Mudders, those color runs. My buddy Joe did one of those color runs. Spartan races. I think those would be cool. I think that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
I like all the functional stuff. I don't like the static lifting. I love the dynamic when you're doing box jumps, you're going through ladders, you're doing rowing machines. That's where I thrive. So yeah, I would probably say future. I really want to do, a Tough Mudder, a Spartan race. I think it's really cool for everyone who's listening in. Where Brian got me into a flag football tournament, and you could probably talk better to this, but you get to play at the Cowboy Stadium, which is awesome. I've never been there, and this next Saturday, the 10th, we're in a tournament, and I'll hand it over to Brian to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, for my goals, I would definitely say probably one of those Spartan races, and then just doing fun, different things like flag football. Just expanding my network, doing different things, meeting new people.
See, this is where I have a real struggle. And what you just said is like my mindset to a T. The only issue is that competitiveness in me just starts to creep up in the back. So if I go to a flag football tournament, I'm going to win it. Like, I'm not there. Like, obviously I'm there to have fun. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it. But, like, I'm not there to just, like, I dropped it, whoop-de-doo. I'm there to win it. And, like, the same thing with – so I've really looked into the Spartan races because those Spartan races are actual races. That's the difference for me between, like, a Tough Mudder and a Spartan race. The Tough Mudder, you go and do it, and it's cool. It's a fun event, and a lot of people love doing that. But I want to be ranked. Like, I want to go, and I want to just empty the tank, and at the end of the day, go to the leaderboard and see where I ranked. You know, that's like that's what drives me. That's why I'm obsessed with triathlon. Like that's what caught me like right off the bat.
Yeah.
So it's funny with the flag football tournament. The same thing for me happened that you went through. You know, when you were done playing baseball, you were like, I'm done with baseball. Like I just, especially because you play levels, it'd be tough for you to just go play in like a wood bat league somewhere. You know what I mean? Like for me with football, it was the same thing. Like I didn't want to play flag football. The flag football tournament I played in a couple months ago, that was the first time I played organized football at any capacity since I quit playing professional football or arena football. So I was the same mindset. So, but that idea of continuing to explore new things and new challenges. That's why I got into golf too. But that's the funny story about me and you, man. Because iron sharpens iron. When I went golfing with Devin and Lorenzo and Ellie, we were sitting there hitting warm up shots, and I was like, I'd never broken 100 before. I never golfed in my life. Like I golf once a summer. Once every other summer. Like when I say I didn't golf, I never golfed. And we were warming up, and we were, I was just like, I freaking hate everyone watching me off the tee box because it was a frost warning, so the line was like really long, and I'm like, I'm gonna miss it or it's gonna go straight up or something like that. And then we were talking. I forgot how your name got brought up, but someone's like, oh yeah, Danny's pretty good. I mean. He's obviously like he's not like a pro or anything, but like you can tell he's an athlete. And like when I think it was Devin said that to me, I was like, that just like went into my head. I'm like, and he obviously didn't mean it this way, but in my mind I'm like, oh, so I'm not an athlete. Okay, cool. And then I went out there, and with every shot that I took, I had your face like, glazed into my head. I'm like, I got it. And then I wound up shooting under 100 for the first time in my life. But it's that competitive. I can't turn it off, So I don't.
And that's a simple mind shift. All you did was, just change or focus more, and
it triggers some hyper focus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how powerful it is. And I mean, I play golf with a lot of buddies back at home. Joe, JD, my buddy Chris, and same thing. We'll have fun, but I mean, when it gets down to it, if we're competing 2-on-2, you can tell you play differently because you really focus,
Mm-hmm.
And that's with anything in life. If you really focus on one thing, become obsessed with it, really want to get good at it, you can shoot in the 80s, you can touch the 70s, but I mean, there's a lot of repetitions and a lot of hours that you have to put in. It just doesn't come overnight.
That's the problem, is I want to do so many things that my damn job gets in the way,
There you go. Gotta pay the bills somehow.
But that's actually that's a good kind of lead in, because I wanted to talk to you too about professionally. So exactly what you just said, have to pay the bills somehow, and you said, you made that realization, or had that moment when you were done with baseball. It's like, well, now I have to enter the workforce. Now I have to, not that you weren't working, but you know what I mean. Like now I have to get a job that or in a career where I'm looking to do this until I can retire, and so sales I think is a great avenue to go down if you're an athlete or a former athlete. And I mean, the job that you have, I'll tell you, man, when you took me to Houston, you're super impressive. We're both in sales, but it's very, very different types of sales, and you're playing some pretty high stakes stuff. So how would you say your transition, like, is there a lot of correlation between your mindset and your drive and, not aggression, but, you know what I mean, like your will to compete and drive to win? Is there a lot of crossover between your experience in sports and your job now?
Yeah, I would say big time. I mean, you see a lot of athletes go into the sales world. They do the medical equipment sales or whatever type of sales it is. And it's because it's very competitive, you're usually in an environment of a sales team where you're competing to be the top rep or have the most sales in a week. So there's KPIs, key performance indicators that you can shoot after to measure yourself, right? I mean, for me, I need that. I need goals to hit. I'm a visual guy, so I need to write down how many calls I did or, so yeah, I would say, there was a perfect fit for me. Um, with most sales positions, there's a champions club or a president's club. If you hit certain numbers, you get invited to a extravagant trip. And I got to take part of that and bring Amanda with me in Turks and Caicos in 2018 and the Bahamas in 2019. And yeah, I won the account executive of the year. Those 2 years back to back. Those little crystals right there. So I would say it's a huge correlation with sales. I mean, it's competitive, and also the more you put in, the more money you can make, which is great, and that's very attractive to me because I like when you put in the work, I like seeing the results, right? If it's hitting 300 versus 400 in a season, or, making $20 a day or $25 a day. I mean, it's something you can measure. So things that I can measure of how much weight I can lift in F45, how many push-ups I can do,
well, by default too, I think, like by default, if you're getting paid the same amount of money to do a job, I mean, isn't any logical person going to say, well, why wouldn't I just work as little as possible as opposed to as hard as possible because I'm going to get paid the same amount of money? Like to me, that seems crazy. Like, why would I want a job like that? I like the idea of the harder you work, the more money you're going to make.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Or even if it's not a sales position and you are getting paid the same no matter how hard you work, there's got to be steps, right? Okay, well, I'm not at the ceiling, right?
Right.
There's this next tier and this next tier and this next tier. There's got to be something that you're working towards that when you achieve, feels good.
Yeah.
Success is great no matter what you're successful at. I mean,
and everyone's definition of success is completely different, and that's what I think is important to realize. Is my man Joe Rogan, obsessed with Joe Rogan. One of the quotes that he always says, and I forgot who actually originally said it, but comparison is the thief of joy, and it's so true. You can't constantly compare yourself to others because that's an endless pursuit that's just never going to result in you ever being happy, ever.
No, yeah, so true. You have to focus on, be grateful for your achievements, look back on your successes. Because, I mean, you compare yourself, there's always going to be someone who's faster or doing more calls or making more sales or doing, this or that. But, yeah, you have to be in the present moment and really, really know who you are and, the work that you're putting in, waking up at 4:30 every morning. That's not easy.
Right.
I'm proud of that. You have to realize what you're doing, like you, biking every day, swimming, working out. I mean, at the end of the day, you do need to reflect back on that and realize like, man, that's a lot. I am proud of myself.
I wish there was a different term for like growth mindset, because it's one of those terms that I feel has just been beaten down into the ground like so many times that it's kind of lost meaning. Same thing with like the word like synergy. It's just it's turned into like a throwaway term. So I wish there was another way to define it. But the idea of growth mindset, I think it's hard to define what that is. But when you see someone with it, it's contagious. If that makes sense. If like when we met each other, the idea of like, I'm doing this, but I want to do this, and I've been going here, and I've done this so far, but, I'm really competing at that. That idea of just, like, constantly exploring new things and challenging yourself is, for me, that's how I define success, is the idea of being normal or the idea of being average is, like the Schwarzenegger quote, is one of the worst fears of my life. The idea of just rolling out of bed, going to a job I don't really like, coming home, and then just riding it out until I go to bed. That seems like prison to me. You know what I mean? At least in prison, they're telling you what to do. If you're willingly doing that, I can't imagine. You're missing. I really like life is fleeting. For me to turn around and be like, I'm gonna be 35 in July, and for me to just even think that I'm 35 years old is nuts. And I'm already not having regrets, but like I look back at like my 20s. I'm like, what the hell was I doing? What a moron, So I feel like I'm just like constantly like making up for lost time because I just have all these ideas and things I want to do. And hell, I started a podcast this year. Like, who am I? Who wants to hear me talk?
28 episodes in, right? This is number 28.
This is number 28. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's
man.
it's just if you want to do something and you have a passion for it, just start doing it. I'm so much happier, and I've done so much growth in this past year. And it goes back to like what we were talking about in terms of, having a negative and a positive, or turning a negative or a challenge into. Last year, my life was completely different. A year ago, I had a different job. I was working for FC Dallas, and I didn't even own a laptop. And then when sports shut down and I wasn't working for FC Dallas anymore, I could have been like, all right, well, I lost my job. That's the reason I moved to Texas, and I could be negative and use it as a crutch to kind of slack off. But I went the exact opposite. I'm like, now I have this free time to really double down on cycling and running and swimming, and really try to get even better at triathlon, and start some of these pursuits that I wanted to do, like learning how to do podcasts, and learning how to, or pursuing, as stupid as it sounds, that number one in the world Mario, and magic. I took magic classes. Like, what am I doing?
Love that though.
But it's that growth mindset, and that's where I find value in hanging out and kind of, to associate myself with people who are of that same mindset. You are definitely someone that embodies that to the extreme.
Yeah, and to what you said, time is fleeting. It's so true, what I like to say is the time is now. I mean, it really is now, and we could find a million excuses to not go to the gym, or to not, start the magic classes, or do this or do that. But like I said earlier, tomorrow's never promised. It's not guaranteed. Time is now. Like, if you want to do something, I know it sounds cliche and you hear it before, but it's so true, like, go for it right now. Like, if you're thinking about it, you're already in that frame of mind. You're just not putting pen to the paper,
No,
you
right.
gotta just go.
When I, what that moment for me was I've talked about it before on here, but when my dad passed away when I was 29, I was just like, something snapped in my head. Not in a bad way, but like, he worked his whole life, and he actually had to retire early because of back issues, because he was a truck driver. And then within a year or two of him retiring, he passed away. Well, it's like, he worked his whole life, working these crazy hours, driving all over the country, sacrificing a lot of different things, to retire, and then retires, and then he passes away. And me, when he passed away, I was just like, I'm out. I was in a job that I was miserable in, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's definitely not going to be that anymore. And just, It's like that flap of a butterfly wing. We keep going back to that concept. But if I never quit that job, I would have never, thought about even entering the world of professional sports. And then that would have never led me to Dallas or Frisco. And then that would have never led to meeting people like you. And, now I'm not even in pro sports anymore, but I just couldn't be happier in the position that I'm in. So it's these, going back to like what, right at the beginning when you said, what's one thing that you would suggest to someone to change their habits? I mean, just change one thing. Just change one little thing, and that's going to snowball. That amplifies over the course of days, months, years, and I don't know if you agree with any of that, but
No, I do. And what came to my mind is back to that, what's the best advice? The best advice is just start. Like, just start. And if you say, well, start what? Write down something that you want to start, and just hold yourself accountable to it every day, and just do it. Because like you said, I mean, those little adjustments every single day add up to that fork in the road where you either go this way or that way, and it's a big fork. I mean, look at you right now. If you just were like, okay, I'm just gonna hit cruise control and job, I'm good, like I'm comfy, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone, you would have never had any of this, right? And the world's so big, there's so much to do. So yeah, best advice, just start. If you're thinking about it, your mind already wants to put it down and take action, but you just got to start. And it's hard, but
it is.
You got to find why do you want to do that?
Yeah.
You know, figure out your why.
I almost exclusively live outside of my comfort zone. I like living out there.
Yes, it's good. Life is fun, right?
It is. It's great, man. It really is. And I just got done, not done, I'm an hour away, but it's called, or an hour away from finishing it, Your Life for Your Money. I've talked to you about this. But, you know, it's a book that I would suggest for anyone out there, Your Life or Your Money. It's, I mean, I obviously just finished it, and it takes months and years to put into practice what, you know, this book kind of preaches. But, you know, one of the things, and I found this really interesting because I started asking people this. I'd say, the question in the book is like, ask yourself, if you didn't have to work for a year and you didn't have to worry about money, what would you do? And if you don't have an answer right off the bat, you don't deserve to not work for a year. Like, you don't deserve, if you're not doing anything to change, you know what I mean? Like, think about that. Like, if you just had all the free time in the world and you're like, well, I'd probably watch some TV, you know, I might, you know, do that. Well, yeah, you can hate your job, or if you don't have a vision of, like, where you want to go in life, well, that's never going to change, you know? So complaining about your situation is never going to get you anywhere, you know? It's
Nope.
Yeah, and there's so much of that, and it's close friends of mine that I see all the time, just like complaining. Then they leave work and they'll just, you know, go to the bar and drop $100 at the bar, and then, you know, go home and pass out and just, you know, just rinse repeat the next day. It's like, what? To me, that's insanity. Like, what are you doing there? And unfortunately, I think you see it a lot in our society because there's so many distractions. It's easy to just you have an iPhone, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you ever pay attention to, like, your weekly totals when it says, like, how much time you spend on your phone?
You know, I do, yeah, and it needs to be cut down drastically.
It's
like
shocking.
The screen time is what you're talking about? Yeah, it is shocking.
It's like, what the hell am I doing in there for that long? And imagine if I were to just be like, you know what? You get those hours back in a week. Think about how productive you are. Like, now you're going to compound that with the extra, 6-7 hours or whatever it is. You know, probably more than that, but yeah, you know what I mean? There's so many distractions that in life for us especially in 2021, that we can you could spend 2 hours just scrolling through your social media apps, Facebook,
Easy.
Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, then you're scrolling through your Gmail, you know what I mean? Then you're just hitting the web and you're watching, you know, you're reading sites, and then you're watching, you know, some TV show. Boom, that's 5 hours you just did nothing. And for what? To see what Debbie was eating at lunch today? Who cares? you know?
It's true. It's true. You're just looking at that whole rinse repeat thing you're just talking about. I mean, that plays another big factor. I mean, you're looking at all these Instagrams where it's these luxurious lives of just traveling and beautiful people, and you know, you look at yourself and you're just like, well, I'm not doing that, you know? So if you're on that social media stuff, I try and follow a lot of like motivational stuff if I'm going to look at that all the time, you know, David Goggins, Jocko Willink, you know, quotes, anything. If I'm going to look at it, that's what I want imprinted in my brain. That's what I want to be looking at rather than, you know, fake life, you know, which
Speaking
a lot
of
of people do.
Now that you mentioned David Goggins, next year we got to do that challenge together. I know you can do it. We should do it together.
All right, tell everyone about the challenge. And yeah, I partaked a little bit in this, but listen to what he just did this couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so David Goggins is he's a guy he's originally from Buffalo, and I'm originally from Buffalo as well. So you know, obviously just had an interest in following his career, and he's a former Marine, and the guy's just an absolute lunatic. He does like 100, 200-mile races, and he's running in lightning storms and sandstorms, and this dude's like, he does these races in like the deserts and mountains and all kinds of crazy terrain too. So he's one of these crazy inspirational, but he's also he's like a hard ass. Like his Instagram is just filled with him running and just like yelling at you while you're running, like, you know, it's raining, don't be soft, get out here, stay hard, you know, and it's like, but he started a challenge last year called the 4x4x48 challenge. So you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And I have never run 48 hours or 48 miles in 2 days, ever. I was sitting in the sauna, and I was in a group chat. We were talking about a concert, and it was funny. The day before, actually, my friend had messaged me and was like, "Are you doing the 4x4x48 challenge?" And I'm like, "No, I have no idea what that is." And he was like, "Well, me and my friends were talking about it, and they said that they didn't know anyone crazy enough to do it. So that's why I reached out to you, because I figured you'd be doing it." So then, like we mentioned, tell me I can't do something and I'm just going to do it. Well, that's kind of along the same lines. If like, oh, that's crazy, why would anyone do that? Immediately I'm like, maybe I'll give it a shot, So I was in the sauna, and we were in a group chat, and there was something that Friday, some event that we were thinking about going to, and I was like, no, I'm going to be doing the 4x4x48 challenge. And I had never mentioned it to anyone. I just learned about it the day before and wasn't trained for it or anything like that. And this was like maybe within a month of the challenge. So I worked with 26 Shirts in Buffalo. Shout out to 26 Shirts. They got a great thing going there. And we fundraised over, I think, $1,200 for children's cancer research in Buffalo. I just thought I'd make it like a whole Buffalo thing, but yeah, ran 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, and Danny was a big part of. He was day 2. I think you were the 10 p.m. run, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the big mistake we did make was Danny got me all jacked up on hamburgers. He was like, "Dude, you gotta eat. Let's go." And I'm like, "All right, I'll eat McDonald's." And McDonald's, but so did not think that through.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive, and me and Brian runs all the time. I'm not a big runner, but even after 4 miles, my legs were feeling it. But just imagine 4 miles every 4 hours, so you're not that your body needs, and then continuing that for 48 hours, pretty impressive. So hats off to you for that. I would have to do some serious training if I wanted to do that, but
I bet you don't have to train as hard as you think. I bet you'd surprise yourself, because I definitely surprised myself. I didn't, honestly, like in the back of my mind, every run, like every time I'd open my eyes after trying to sleep for like a half hour, I'd be like, what am I doing? And it was like the third run, A
lot of coffee, a lot of pre-workout. Would you be drinking coffee before those runs, or that would dehydrate you?
I actually didn't touch any caffeine for 2 days, which is incredibly uncharacteristic of me in the first place. So because I didn't want to crash. I wanted to stay as even keel as possible. So that's why I didn't want to drink any caffeine or anything like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So you could do it. It's a mindset. You can make your body move forward for 4 miles. You just lean your body forward, and you just catch yourself as you start to fall. That's running,
That's it. I can figure it out.
Yeah, that's it. So, have you thought about doing any type of like a half marathon or anything like that in the Dallas area?
That was one of my goals this past year was to run. It was two half marathons. I didn't do it.
Well, so yeah, a lot of them got canceled too. So
yeah, it was a weird year last year. But I mean, even when I did the one in Monterey, it was great. There's a bunch of people. The energy was high. It was something I've never done before. It was a new experience. It's all about the experiences. So I'm totally into do anything. It's all about the experience for me. I mean, I don't know about a full marathon, 26 miles. That sounds crazy. If my buddy Joe's listening right now, he would say the same thing. He was like, he wouldn't even do a half marathon, but 26 would be wild. I'm telling you, we need to sign up for one of those Tough Mudders or Spartan races.
I'm in.
The weather, the days are longer now. It's going to start getting really hot here. I'm in for all that. Even Hydrus, that wakeboarding park out here, just doing different things,
we should sign up, because one of my goals this year is to, because the way my triathlon season lines up is when I make the World Championships, they're in Bermuda in October. So I'll be obviously in like peak shape for that. And then what I'm thinking is the Dallas Marathon is in December. I think it's like December 12th in right around there. And that's perfect training time for marathon training too. So I was thinking we could maybe do you do the half, I do the full, because one of my goals this year is to try to qualify for the Boston Marathon. So the Dallas course is a good one to do it at because it's relatively flat. So that could be really fun. It's a fun race. I've done it the past 2 years, and it's a good time.
And you have to qualify for the Boston. You got to do it under 3 hours.
Yeah, it goes by age group. So now that I'm an old man, I went up in age group, so I don't know what it is. I think it's probably around 3 hours. Yeah, something like that. But
Pretty impressive. That's moving 6:50 pace, around that area.
Yeah, between 6:50 and 7, somewhere in that area. But I mean, there's a guy that I'm going to have on the show too. He's friggin' jacked, and he's from Rochester, New York. That's how I came across his social media profiles and stuff. But he's I think he's a full-time coach now. I think he gave up his warehouse job that he was working, and he's stacked, and he runs them in like 2:40. So
wow.
Yeah, he was like one of the original inspirations for me, because one of the reasons I didn't want to get into endurance type sports is because of that fallacy where you have to be a twig. You have to just kind of lose as much weight as possible, so you're just skin and bones. So and because when you think of an endurance runner or a marathoner, you think of just really skinny girl or really skinny guy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that. I wanted to. I wanted to maintain, muscle. Not that I'm jacked or anything, but like I didn't want to be just like, I'm little as it is. I didn't need to add scrawny on top of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I saw, his name's Patrick Cutter. Shout out to Patrick. When I saw his profile, I'm like, I can look like that and run like that. Oh, I'm in now. I didn't know people existed like that. You don't hear about those people. So,
you got to get him on. Pick his brain a little bit.
Yeah, dude, that guy's so busy, man. Because he does marathons all over the country, and he's got so many followers. I mean, he wants to come on. It's just coordinating a date, but neither here nor there. But yeah, December I think would be. It's a fun race, man, and it's local, so we can just hang out afterwards and celebrate the finish.
I'm in, man. I'm in. Sign me up.
All right, I love it. Well, Danny, we're at about an hour and 20 minutes here, so I think it's a good time to wrap it up. But I always like to kind of ask, is there anything we didn't talk about or any message you want to get out there that we didn't cover? Or the floor is yours, sir.
I would just say the biggest takeaways from our conversation today that you can apply right away is just being positive, and if you haven't seen it, The Secret, Law of Attraction, focus on good things in life. It's very easy for you to focus on the negative outcomes in life because that's an easy result. So I would say the biggest thing that's really helped me is I'm a very positive, optimistic person. I always try and look at the glass half full rather than half empty. And it really sets you up for a happy life and a lot more doors open. You have a greater energy around you too, and you attract people that way. And just enjoy, be grateful, practice gratitude every day. Life is good, we get an opportunity to do whatever we want, or create the possibility of doing whatever we want every single day, so start taking make those little tiny changes, and over time those are going to add up, and that's going to determine the road we go. But I love everyone. Thank you all for joining. Brian, appreciate you having me on the show. This was awesome. I've been watching your podcast, and I was pumped to be on one, and hope to join another one in the future.
Oh, definitely, man. Actually, real quick before we go, I do want to mention the story. I thought we'd get to it organically, but it slipped both of our minds. Just an example of, just the way that me and you interact in public. Like we talk about the law of attraction. You've mentioned it a couple times. I think I may have once or twice. But, why don't you go ahead and explain what we mean by that? Because we say this to each other all the time.
Yeah, so for law of attraction, thoughts become things, choose the good ones. I get that quote every day in my inbox.
That's your Twitter profile.
Just really, yeah, it's my Twitter profile. really the basis of that is just back to that frame of mind, really visualizing what you want. And it's your mind is very powerful. You send those signals out to the universe, and that really does, something happens. I don't know all the logistics behind it, but if you really think about what you want and where you want to go, and then you set up a plan of micro goals to hit, and you stay in that frame of mind, good things start attracting to you. And that's the law of attraction. Thoughts become things. So choose the good ones. You want to add to that? That's my interpretation of it. What you think comes to your life.
That's exactly right. No, I think that's perfectly well stated. And I was going to say the example, and me and Danny get coffee on Fridays, and last Friday we were out getting coffee, and this young girl comes up to us, probably in her mid-20s, something like that, and she was just like, she could tell, the positive conversation we were having, and the vibes that were at the table, and she was a former Arkansas cheerleader, I think.
Yeah.
And she just had a million different things going on, and she wanted to be related to Tory Hunter, if you guys know who Tory Hunter is. But I just thought it was a cool little anecdote about, even when me and him are in public, we're just so positive and, upbeat and kind of always looking at the positive side of things. I think you really... mindset is everything. It starts, at least mindset, everything starts with mindset, I'll say.
Yeah, that's where it begins. So when you recognize those people in your life, gravitate towards those people. You can learn something from them big time, and they'll rub off on you, and new doors will open, new opportunities, and that's what life's all about. There's so much ahead of us that we don't know that's going to happen. That's going to happen in the near future. So
that's right.
Take that grain of knowledge with you, and I appreciate it, Brian. This was awesome. Always love to chat it up, but yeah, keep them coming. Love the podcast, and more than happy to jump on one in the future.
Appreciate it, man. I look forward to your motivational video at 4:45 a.m. in my Instagram inbox. So thank you.
Done. You got it.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you.
I got.